Now, the last point you made, I don't mind labels, but I've written a book called The Precariat Charter. And I asked the provocative question, what would be the policies and institutional changes that the Precariat are advocating that are different from what the proletariat would have been advocating 100 years ago? You see big differences. You see a huge emphasis on the need to revive the commons. You see a huge difference in type of voice organization that you want to encourage. You see a huge difference in the values of work relative to labor. And there are 29 policies in the book, and they are very different from what the proletariat were demanding 100 years ago or even 50 years ago. So I think that to call it socialist, I don't really mind, but it's not socialist in the sense of the welfare state capitalism of the post-war era. I'm not advocating that at all. I think that would be folly. I think that would be a terrible way of going backwards. I think we are now in a world where the precariat is the dominant mass class, and they're not being indoctrinated to accept as a norm stable full-time labor. That's not either what they're being expected to take or what many of the educated people who are entering the precariat want. And I think, therefore, we need to think differently. Let's not use old concepts. Let's have a new vocabulary. And that's why it's such a pleasure to be talking to students who are embarking on a journey where you're going to have to be developing new vocabulary, a new conceptual framework, a new paradigm. Because the old paradigms of social democracy and neoliberalism have broken down. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to be thinking irreverently, thinking creatively, and enjoying it because you're going to be playing with different concepts. Maybe some of those concepts that Iris has mentioned, maybe you will find that is part of your vocabulary. Great. That's fair, fine. But I think it's an ideal opportunity at this juncture where our old system has collapsed. And the worst thing, as I quoted a piece of graffiti on a Madrid wall, which says the worst thing would be to go back to the old normal. I think that's a very sound point.